Alright, so guys, let's take a look at this first assignment for the class here. I've got it set up in Illustrator. I prefer Illustrator for almost every assignment in this class. It's just a lot more intuitive and a lot easier to work with than Photoshop when it comes to color editing. But you know, it's kind of up to you. So the first thing that we need to do is, you know, come up to the RGB here, drop down and go to C or HSB. Now, HSB are sliders that until I taught color theory I actually never even used. Like, they didn't really make any sense to me. I didn't know what they were. But you know, for all intents and purposes, we've got hue, saturation, right? You can see how it gets brighter as it goes over here, and then we have value, which gets darker as it goes this direction. So what you need to do is be always working in HSB. You'll never use RGB in this class at all, and definitely won't be using CMYK. When you open up your file, it should say RGB preview up here. If it doesn't, you should be able to go to, where is it? Edit, color settings, and then make sure that it is set up like this here. It should, I don't know, CS6, I haven't messed with the color settings in CS6 much, but it should be like this. You shouldn't have any, your color profile should never be in CMYK. If it says CMYK up here, you're going to get in trouble with that. It's going to mess up your colors. So make sure that it does say RGB up here. Okay, so next step is going to be looking at the actual assignment itself. So for the entire class, the definition of a fully saturated color is going to be with these two sliders at 100. This is the absolute brightest, brightest setting we have. Down here, we're looking at it, and this is adding white, right? And this is adding black. So basically, if we were looking at a bucket of really bright red paint, and we added white to it, that's what it would do. And if we added black to it, that's what it would do. And if we added like gray to it, it would look something more along the lines of that. So this is a definition, this is the definition of a fully saturated color. H wherever, S and B at 100. So we want to start off with a gradation in hue at maximum saturation. So we know that these need to be 100% the whole way. And a gradation is just a smooth transition, right? So, you know, just easy way to do this is start at 0. You can start wherever you want though. And just drag that color in. And you saw I clicked the fill right here and I just dragged it over. So let's do 10. So what this tells me, and it will shift a little bit, that's okay, as long as it's under about 1/4%, or 1/4 of a degree, you're okay. Okay, so I moved 10 on the last one, so we got to move 10 on the next one. Drag it. 30. Right? 40. 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. So we'll have a 90-degree range of color here. And that's fine. That looks good, right? It's going to be a nice, smooth movement of hue. S and B sliders stay at 100%. Okay, so this one's a little trickier because there's a number of ways of doing this. And what I actually want you to do is start with a hue. I don't know, we'll go, let's say, blue. And I want you to start with white on one side. So we know that S needs to go to 0. Okay. And then black on the other side. Okay. And then somewhere in the middle, you want to have this fully saturated hue. So, you know, it doesn't really matter whether it's in this one or this one, but when you're doing your numbers, it will matter a little bit. So, easiest way to do this is figure, okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. So we're going to just take 20% off each time. So I'm going to go 80. Okay, so we're going to go 80, 60. Again, the hue can be anything you want it to be, doesn't matter. 40, enter, drag it. 20, drag it. And then of course the natural step would be 0 after that, which is exactly what we have. So then we start back up at our pure hue. Now we're short a little bit here, so we can only go 75. It needs to be 25 because we're dividing by 4 intervals. Okay, so we're adding black. Okay. Enter, and then drag it over there. And you can see what happens here is it goes from white, which these are tints, pure hue, shades, right? And nice full range of value in there. We've got all the way from white to black, some of the tints and shades in between. Now, this last one is tricky because if you do it by hand in Photoshop, you have to sort of fudge it a little bit, and it can take quite a bit of time. But luckily in Illustrator, all you have to do is delete these middle boxes here, just select them, and that's with the black arrow tool up here, and delete. Okay, so let's just start with our pure hue again. And this is one of the hardest assignments, these first two, for the entire class, because you have to guess what the gray value of this is. And the reason we want to do that is it's a gradation in saturation with the same hue and value. So we know that we need to keep the hue the same, so that won't move at all. And we need to keep the value the same. And if we add black to it, it darkens it. If we add white to it, it lightens it. So we need to figure out what the gray on the other end is going to be. And so we can actually put the S at 0. That's how we know it's gray. And then we need to guess. And something like that's pretty useful, or I think pretty close. Now, I'm going to actually back up. And backing up. There we go. Okay, and the reason I want to back up is because here's a trick. Okay, so we're going to start with our pure hue. Okay, and it's usually easier to see value if it's close to the color. You can squint at it, and if you squint at that, I think that gray might be a little bit too dark. So let's ease up a little bit. And I think that's pretty close. So now I can take that gray, put it over here. Now I can delete that one. And we're good. Okay, so now what are we missing? Well, obviously we're missing the middle section here. The way to go about that is to use the blend tool, which is this guy over here. If you hit the W key on your keyboard, it'll get you there. We need to fix that. We need to go into Edit. Oh, where is it? No, there we go. Object, sorry. Object, Blend, Blend Options. So we don't want it to be a smooth blend. We want it to be specified steps. And how many steps are in between there? 8, so that looks good. And there we go. So now we're on the blend tool. All you have to do is click here, and it's done. That's all you have to do for that one. You can check it in grayscale, make sure that it's pretty close. You know, I would say this one here is probably a little bit off, but you can go up to Edit, Edit Colors, Convert to Grayscale. And you see how it actually gets lighter? That tells me that the grayscale in Photoshop tells us that it gets lighter. It's not enough for me to really worry about too much, but if I want to, I can come back in here with my eyedropper tool, and I see that it gets lighter, so I'm going to maybe drop it down, say 5%. And all I have to do is actually drag that in there, and you see it automatically adjusts it. So yeah, Illustrator is really easy for these, especially when you get to the next assignment. So oops, looks like I lost my, oh, I never did those colors up there, that's right. So yeah, let's get these. So hue, pure hue, right? S and B sliders stay at 100 the whole way across. This one, go white to pure hue to black. And then this one, start on a pure hue because we want it to be fully bright to fully desaturated, right? So full saturation to no saturation. So S and B at 100. Drag that across so that you have a gray that's there. So anyway, if you have questions about that, please let me know.